Okay, we're back. And so are you. Let us proceed. What is this? Four UFOs shot down in 8 days? I mean, one of two things is happening. It can only be one of two things. Either we have not been paying attention to UFOs flying around the United States airspace to the degree that we should have been all these years, or all of a sudden there's a huge influx of UFOs flying over the United States and Canada. It can only be one of the two, right? U.S. fighter jet shot down a UFO over Lake Huron yesterday on orders from President Biden yesterday. And that was the fourth shoot down in 8 days. And the latest military operation in a chain of events over U.S. airspace that the Pentagon has they don't know what the hell's going on. No precedent. There's no way. And the Pentagon is like they did with the story that came from Roswell, New Mexico in when? 1947, 48? When was that? The shoot down of the, quote, weather balloon, unquote, with the little person inside, right? But here we are once again. Well, no comment right now. We're kind of like the Catholic Church. We're not going to say shit, you know. And part of the reason for these series of shoot downs now is being reported because of a heightened alert. That's where we are. We're under heightened alert after that spy balloon from China was knocked out of the sky. There was a briefing with reporters by General Glenn Van Herk, who's the head of NORAD and the UN's Northern Command, who said, well, what I just told you, that we're now under a state of heightened alert. Well, bless the Northern Command's heart for putting us under a heightened alert. Oh, my God. And Melissa Dalton, who is the Assistant Defense Secretary for Homeland Defense, she issued a statement, quote, "We have been more closely scrutinizing our airspace at these altitudes, including enhancing our radar, which may at least partly explain the increase," end quote. Oh, I see. Well, okay. I guess if you're looking for UFOs, you will find them. And if you're not looking for UFOs, well, then you probably won't unless commercial jet pilots or military pilots see them. And if they have the nerve, they report them, although it's my understanding that a lot of people who fly jets, civilian or military, are more than reluctant to talk about it because then you're labeled as a crazy, oh, is it full of little green men? U.S. authorities have... trying to CYA, cover your ass. That's what they're coming up with now. They've made it clear that they constantly monitor for unknown radar blips. And the CYA say it is not unusual to shut down airspace as a precaution to evaluate the blips. But this unusually assertive response now from, for example, Ms. Dalton, we have really started closely scrutinizing our airspace. Well, that kind of talk was raising questions about whether such use of force was lacking until recently, whether or not it's warranted, particularly because administration officials in the Biden administration said that these objects being shot down were not of great national security concern, and the downings were just out of caution. Oh, we're just going to shoot it down. I mean, no big deal. We're just going to shoot it down. No big deal. And back to General Van Herk, he said the U.S. adjusted its radar so that now it could track slower objects. What? What? You mean up to these sightings we weren't able to track slower objects? Huh? Well, wait a minute. We spend $750 billion a year on military shit, right? On defense and offense and stuff. And what? The radar hasn't been able to track slower objects? Radar? We're still using radar? When the hell was radar developed anyway? 100 years ago or something? Oh my God. Anyway, General Van Herk, getting back into the CYA mode, he said, quote, with some adjustments, we've been able to get a better categorization of radar tracks now, and that's why I think you're seeing these. Plus, there's a heightened alert to look for this information, end quote. Sounds a bit like the infamous 5 o'clock follies, right? You remember that from Vietnam, don't you? Huh? Our soldiers today had 120 confirmed VC kills. We only lost 3 people. We have liberated 400 more Vietnamese villages. You know, all of that was just utter, absolute bullshit. So here we are again. Now we have General Van Herk saying, I think the reason you're seeing these shootdowns is because there is a heightened alert to look for them. Oh, well, that certainly makes sense. Huh? And then General Van Loudmouth added this, quote, I believe this is the first time within the United States or American airspace, within the United States or American air, okay, that NORAD, or United States Northern Command, has taken kinetic action against an airborne object. Kinetic action? Wow, Your Honor. I've never heard that one before. Kinetic action. This is the first time. Well, And then he was asked by somebody who will probably lose their Pentagon clearance now, but this somebody asked if the officials have ruled out extraterrestrials. And the general answered, I haven't ruled out anything at this point. Oh. Well, I hope you've gotten your 3rd star already, General, because with a statement like that, if you're hung up on 1 or 2, that's probably where you're going to retire. I haven't ruled out anything at this point. It could be, yeah, well, who knows? Now, officials at the Pentagon also revealed that they're still trying to determine what exactly these things are. And they had considered using the guns on these jet aircraft rather than missiles, you know, to have some pieces left over that were big enough to identify. But that proved to be too difficult. Apparently, that's what the military told the Associated Press. Well, it's too difficult. God damn it, we had to use missiles. Huh? Okay. I'm not quite sure what that means, but the military never lies, does it? No, Pentagon Papers and all that shit, that was just made up. That didn't really, never mind. And the Pentagon officials went out of their way to draw a strong distinction between the 3 shot down this weekend, including the one over Lake Huron, and the balloon from China. Then we have Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. He tweeted that airmen of the 148th Fighter Wing, an Air National Guard fighter unit in Duluth, Minnesota, shot down the object over Lake Huron. Pew! Air National Guard. Well, not important enough for the United States Air Force, but Air National Guard, okay. Do you find any of this amusing? You can tell by the background snickering here that I do. It seems to be an intersection of military bullshit and the unknown. And when you reach that intersection of military bullshit and the unknown, that's usually a bad sign. That usually is an indication that something really serious is afoot. But the military doesn't want to panic anybody. Isn't that what the line is always in the sci-fi movies where something horrible is about to happen? There's an asteroid heading this way, or something terrible is coming at us from outer space, something with creatures in it, but we don't want to panic anybody, so we'll keep it quiet. Wasn't that the central theme of Project Blue Book? The UFO investigation organization that was set up, quasi-military organization back in, the 60s, 70s? Headquartered at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, to find out what are these flying saucers. And if you remember, Project Blue Book was finally closed. When? The 90s, the 2000s? I don't know, recently, so to speak, recently. They said, well, okay, we did our investigation. There's no little green men out there. It was all just, swamp gas or weather balloons or sunspots or moonbeams. The intersection of military bullshit and the unknown. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. And then the AP reports this. The extraordinary air defense activity began in late January when a white orb, the officials said was from China, appeared over the U.S. and hovered above the nation for days before fighter jets downed it off the coast of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. That event played out over live stream. Many Americans have been captivated by the drama playing out in the skies as fighter jets scrambled to shoot down objects. End quote. Well, now the latest was Saturday night over Montana. But initially, it was thought just to be some sort of radar anomaly or something, swamp gas or something. Radar picked it up again Sunday, hovering over the upper peninsula of Michigan, and then it headed out over Lake Huron, and then kaboom! U.S. and Canadian authorities had restricted some airspace over Lake Huron early yesterday, Sunday, as planes were scrambled to intercept and identify what the hell this one was. And according to a senior Biden administration official, the object was octagonal with strings hanging off. What? Octagonal with strings hanging off. But according to people who saw this thing, it had no discernible payload, but it was flying at 20,000 feet. I mean, that's low. That's even way lower than most commercial jet planes fly, unless they're taking a short hop, say from Atlanta to Charleston or something. And the person who gave this information to the Associated Press, of course, had to speak on condition of anonymity to discuss sensitive matters, the intersection of military bullshit and the unknown. Dangerous place to be. And while all this is going on, the Lake Huron event, U.S. officials, military and civilian, were still trying to precisely identify the other two objects over this weekend shot down by the F-22 fighters. And apparently these government officials now are working to try to find out whether China was responsible for all of it. What do you think, Truth Seeker? Do you think China is responsible for all of it? Huh? Do you? Well, at this point, I will offer up a qualified no. I don't think China was qualified, I said. I don't think China was responsible for all of it, although I have no reason to believe otherwise. But I just don't think that the Chinese, you get caught once with your hand in the cookie jar. Are you going to go right back to the cookie jar? Mom's just in the other room and she can hear you take the lid off. She's going to come back and say, I told you to get your hand out of the cookie jar, right? Something is going on. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. The Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.